Hey, what's up, good people? I'm QC. Welcome back to this special edition of Talkin and Grubbin. I'm back with more of my top 10 GOAT Super Bowl champions. At number 8, I have the 2002 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs finally became a perennial playoff team after being the laughingstock of the NFL for decades. A lot of the credit went to head coach Tony Dungy. He was a major force in their turnaround, but they kept coming up short in the playoffs, including back-to-back dominating losses against the Philadelphia Eagles. GM Rich McVay and owner Malcolm Glazer felt that this team wasn't reaching their full potential. They felt like this team could contend and ultimately win a Super Bowl, but they questioned whether Dungy was the man, and their answer was no. So they made a drastic change by trading with the Oakland Raiders for head coach John Gruden. They felt that Gruden could definitely fix the Buccaneers' lackluster offense, as he successfully had done with the Raiders. They felt like they finally had the man that could lead the Buccaneers to their first Super Bowl title. And in the 2002 season, the Bucs went off and running. After suffering a heartbreak OT loss to their division rival New Orleans Saints, the Bucs went on a 5-game winning streak. They ultimately won 7 of 9 games, and coming out of the bye week, they didn't slow down. They won 5 out of 7 games to finish with a 12-14 record, the NFC South title, and the number 2 overall seed in the NFC. Now the Bucs, they had one of the great defenses ever that was anchored by Warren Sapp, Rondé Barber, John Lynch, and Derrick Brooks. All four went on to become Hall of Famers. And they were first in a few defensive categories. They were first in total defense. They gave up 252 yards per game. They were first against the pass, only giving up 155 passing yards a game. They were first in points allowed, giving up 12 points per game. They were also 6th against the run, giving up 97 yards per game. They finished 8th in sacks with 43 sacks per game. That equaled out to 2.6 sacks per game. And they were 5th in takeaways with 38 total takeaways. Now, their offense, which was led by QB Brad Johnson, Keyshawn Johnson, Joe Jaravicious, and running back Mike Alcott, left little to be desired. They were 24th in total offense, only averaging 12 yards per game. They were 15th in passing with 215 passing yards per game. They were 27th in rushing with 97 rushing yards per game. They were 15th in passing touchdowns, which was 23 passing touchdowns per game. That averaged out to 1.43 TDs per game. And they were last in rushing TDs with only 6 rushing TDs per game. That was 0.3 TDs per game. And they were 18th in total points, which was 26.6 points per game. But the Bucs, they felt that they were ready to take that final step and compete for that long-awaited Super Bowl. In the divisional round, they dominated the San Francisco 49ers 31-6. And then finally, their biggest test came up against the Philadelphia Eagles, the team that knocked them out of the playoffs in embarrassing fashion for 2 years in a row. And guess what? They had to travel on the road from sunny Florida to cold Philly to try to win the AFC and advance to their first Super Bowl. And that they did in dominating fashion. Not only was the offense was on point, but the defense was even more on point, as they forced a couple of turnovers, including Rondé Barber's pick 6 to seal the game. And ultimately, the Buccaneers finally did it. They finally took down the team that had definitely haunted them for the last couple of years, and they did it in Philly. They ended up knocking off the Eagles in stunning fashion to advance to their first ever Super Bowl. Now, coming up in the Super Bowl was Gruden's old team, the Oakland Raiders. Some people called it the Gruden Bowl. Some people called it the Pirate Bowl because both teams have pirate logos. Excuse me. So this was a very anticipated matchup. Was the Raiders gonna get revenge on their old coach, or will Gruden have the last laugh for the Raiders trading him? And Super Bowl 37, it was no contest. The Bucs pretty much dominated from start to finish with a few interceptions, including a few pick sixes, including one from Derek Brooks. As the Buccaneers went on to win the Super Bowl 36 by a dominating score of 48-21. They finally did it. They finally won that elusive Super Bowl, their first title in franchise history. So Glazer and McVay were proven right by making the switch from Dungy to Gruden, as Gruden led the Bucs to their first ever title. Dexter Jackson was named Super Bowl MVP as he had 2 key interceptions, but the offense in the Super Bowl wasn't too bad either. Brad Johnson was pretty solid. He went 18 for 34, 215 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick with a 79.9 QB rating. Michael Pittman, he had 124 rushing yards, no TDs. Mike Alstott, I mispronounced his name. I apologize. He had only 15 rushing yards and 1 touchdown. On the receiving side, Keyshawn Johnson had 69 yards. Joe Jurevicius had 78. While Alstott had 43 total receiving yards. Now, I picked the 2002 Tampa Bay Buccaneers for this list because they were one of the all-time great defenses. They were anchored by a great core in Sapp, Lynch, Barber, and Brooks. All 4 of them of the Tampa 2 are in Canton right now in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, rightfully so. And it was their defense that led them to that 12-4 record. It also carried them to their first Super Bowl title. Not disrespecting the offense at all, because Brad Johnson was a pretty solid QB. Joe Jurevicius was pretty nice. Of course, Keyshawn Johnson was nice. Mike Alstott was a good running back. But it was their defense that really, really was the main factor in them having the season that they have. Matter of fact, you could arguably say that this defense is one of the best defenses in NFL history, that is right up there with the 2000 Ravens or the 1985 Chicago Bears. So that's why I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are one of the greatest Super Bowl champs of all time. And plus, they ended up knocking off the top dog that everyone said that was a favorite to come out of the NFC, and the Eagles, in their place. So their run in some ways is kind of slept on, and because if you really look at it, they had a pretty dominating run. All right, so that's 3 down, 7 more to go. Do you think the 2002 Tampa Bay Buccaneers should be on this list? Why or why not? Leave your comments in the chat. Till next time, y'all have a good one. Love y'all to life. Salute. Also, I forgot to mention this tidbit. Tony Dungy being fired by the Bucs worked out well for him, as he went on to make history by becoming the first black head coach to win a Super Bowl with the 2006 Indianapolis Colts.